Thank you for joining us for Small Talks for Big Change, where we help simplify financial topics to help with your financial wellness. Greetings, everyone out there, and thanks for tuning into the show. October is an awesome time of the year, especially here in the Bay Area, California. We've got some of the most beautiful fall landscapes and the last of the summer sunshine. October marks the start of the holidays for us, and for credit unions, we celebrate International Credit Union Day mid-month, which is meant to raise awareness about the amazing work that credit unions are doing around the world. And we've done lots of episodes about what Patelco does for the community and for members' financial wellness. But today we want to compare the differences of credit unions compared to other financial institutions. And to bring some perspective to the conversation, we're joined today by Joseph Luque, who's our Central Operations Supervisor and former regional team lead in our retail division. Welcome to the studio, Joseph.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. I hope we have a censor bleep button ready.
Oh, no.
Totally
We're not going to
joking.
need that.
No, not at all. This is a family program.
It really is. Joseph, I recently found out about your background that includes music and DJing, but also that you used to work for a check cashing business, which I thought was really interesting. So we had to get you in here to have you share your experience with providing financial services to the community. But before you introduce yourself and your career background, I just want to clarify that we're talking vinyl and turntables, DJ?
Absolutely, vinyl and turntables, DJ.
Okay, good.
Yes, that unfortunately, no dig at anyone out there. That's the real
This is
real
dying
DJing, right? It is very much so. But I'm actually pleasantly surprised. I do audio on the side, so I get all these audio magazines and things sent to me, and I'm actually seeing vinyl and turntables are making a comeback.
That's good to hear.
Even in people's homes, which I think is really cool. Like,
But I also think we might be showing our age by both saying that. Right?
a little bit, yeah, because there was definitely some listeners that were like, "What?
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
is that on Apple Music?"
You're right.
No.
So tell us about your background.
So I have a pretty diverse background. So depending how far back we go, but just mentioning DJing, so that was something I did at a very young age. I used to actually set up and sell DJ equipment and customize systems for people. And I think, again, I can tie this into very early age. I was used to dealing with the public. And so the public would come in. Everyone has different needs, right? Everyone has different goals. And so they're coming for certain things. And I would make sure that we can kind of tailor what we had, in this case, equipment, right? So that would really do what they needed to do. Some people would come in and have no idea what they were looking for. They just knew they wanted to, do someone's wedding or a party or whatnot, right? And it was like really taking a step back to make sure it's like, okay, what can we get this person that's going to really just fit the need? And I think, all kind of makes sense when I look back on it now, right? That was when I was very young. And, again, it was me really I just enjoyed it. I enjoyed every aspect of it. I enjoyed seeing those people come back and hearing about their successful event, and that the things that we got them really fit what they were looking for. And so kind of started there. From there, I was always kind of in that environment where it was definitely always a service environment, always a service environment. And I did that for some years. I actually worked in multiple different, music stores and things like that. And then going forward, I actually found myself, quite literally, it was a fluke, like totally random. I was talking to this person that ended up being a manager for lack of a better way of putting it, a private owner that had a bunch of check cashing locations. And they literally just were like, "Hey, would you ever consider coming and working with us?" And it was quite literally just like that. And I was like, "Oh yeah, let's give it a shot."
You've got a way with people. You could be good at this in my shop.
Yeah, I guess so, right? So that's pretty much what happened. And then I went there, started off, and just built up from there. Really started at an entry-level position with them. Happy to say accelerated pretty quickly. Went into management with them, and then into even fast forwarding to being a trainer for them. And I ended up actually being one of their head trainers that trained quite literally every person up and down. This individual had many locations all the way down to San Diego. I trained there, and then also would head up their community events and such. And that's, I think, really, in all honesty, what kept me there as long as I was there was because they really did, surprisingly enough, I'm sure for many people, They had a strong community presence, and it was something like, for example, they did an annual backpack giveaway that was a huge event in a lot of really underbanked communities. That was really powerful. Like, I really loved that aspect of running into the kids even later, and they're pointing like, oh, thank you, and like it was such an awesome thing, and that is, in all honesty, probably that. And I'd probably say the training development aspect was what kept me there as long as I was there.
Yeah.
For sure.
And we don't have to name names, but we are talking like a check cashing type of place, but you guys did more than that?
Yes. So they did a wide variety of things, from, loans, all of that. Yes. We definitely won't name names. They're a rather big institution. It was owned by one individual. For some reason, he'd only do meetings at night, and he wore a cape. But I don't know, maybe that's something for later. But it really, I was there really when I thought back about it, when we first had a great conversation, it even got brought up. I kind of asked myself when I walked away that day, like, why was I? And I think it was those two core things. It was that I could do those community involvement, that I could have that involvement with our local community, which is a very important thing for myself. I'm a kid born and raised here in the Bay Area. And the development aspect. Like, I loved bringing in and giving opportunity, even in such environment where we can really develop people as myself. Like, I had a lot of people come through that ended up going into management and then doing the same, leaving to other financial institutions, leaving to other ventures and venues in their life. And it was just really awesome to see and just be a part of that development.
Yeah. So in addition to check cashing and loans, was that just the basic services that you guys were offering?
Primarily, yes. They did a lot of that filler stuff, but pretty much everything you can think of there. Yeah. Just all that stuff there. Really, they did get people set up on creating direct deposit avenues and things like that.
Got it.
But again, not always the best low cost options.
Right.
And that's always the thing, right? And it's like, and that was always, the part where it's like, oh, I think we can still do a little better.
Yeah. And how long were you there?
I was there for a considerable amount of time. Like, again, probably longer than I really would have been if it weren't for the position that I got to, where I was able to then it was more, again, about the people development and really that side of thing, and training even the managers and going to these classes. I was able to go and, build on my own skills in other ways. But I was there for a while. And then, honestly, at some time, I kind of asked myself the same question. Like, I was kind of, why still? I wanted to expand for myself. And so that is literally what happened. I came home. I was noticing I was kind of, getting in this routine that I wasn't, entirely too. I just knew I wanted to do more. Yeah. That's for sure. But I wanted to take what I've built on, and again, back to the core of who I am. It needed to be something that's highly community involved.
Yeah.
Highly into the development. How do we give back?
Yeah.
And honestly, just how do we give the best service possible? And I started just checking, and I always really, really had a high affection for credit unions. And I just started looking into the different credit unions in our area, and Patelco really just stood out to me. And I would say that, like, I remember going on the website and just seeing a ton of the community involvement, and everything was just members, and then I also had a friend of mine that was a longtime Patelco member, and I remember even just mentioning it to him, and he was just like, oh man, that would be awesome. You should definitely go there, and then total coincidence, I think I was mentioning it to another friend at a family at their house, and his mom comes walking into the room like, I love Patelco, and it was just like, oh, this is like,
it really just kind of reinforced it for you.
It really, really did, like big time. Yeah. And then again, so I was like, yeah, this is the place.
Yeah, and there's a lot of stigma around these check cashing type places, but the reality is they serve a purpose for the community. They serve a need in the community in terms of financial services. And I think I'm hearing from your perspective, you were part of the community providing a service. You worked for a place that also did do some community outreach, which filled your bucket. Just found out about credit unions and thought you might make the leap, that it might inspire you more.
Yeah, absolutely. And create a bigger bucket in general, exactly. And that is the thing too. And I think that also is what when I came here, I think that also helped fuel my, my passion for service, which has really always been there we were talking off camera, and just a little bit of everything I do, because I did recognize that there are a huge, again, underbanked out there, that a lot of the times when we'd have conversations, it's just the knowledge isn't there. Sometimes they're just not aware of the products that are out there that can be a much better option for them. Is a large majority of what we wanted. I mean, we have products for everybody.
Yeah.
And that's what's great.
Yeah, and it sounds like you had an aha moment like some of our community members do. They just are not aware of what we offer. They think that might be their only option.
Absolutely.
I think that's so cool. Our community team teaches young people in high schools and colleges, as you know, about financial institutions, and we make sure that the first part of our curriculum is really an introduction to financial institutions before budgeting and saving, before anything else, and just making everyone aware of all of the options out there, because not all financial institutions are created equal. And this is not a bashing episode where, we talk about we're better than another. Every financial institution serves a purpose in the community, and they all kind of have the same goal of taking care of the community members, whatever their needs happen to be. What they all have in common is providing these banking services, right? No matter what your preferences happen to be, but you know that those intentions and missions in which they do business are very different. You've seen that now that you've been here
absolutely.
at Patelco. So our mission here, as you know, is to provide or to improve financial well-being in comparison to working at another institution. How do you see credit unions, or how have you seen credit unions applying that mission in action?
I've seen them really, I might be getting ahead of us, just in so many ways. So like, for example, providing financial well-being. There's something that comes to mind. It was actually, I almost want to say it might even have been my first year here with Patelco. And actually, I'll share a story because this pops in my head when it's really about providing financial well-being, because this one obviously was near and dear to myself. So we would get this feedback. Right. I'll stay away from technical terms, but let's say a member, it was an experience. Maybe certain things didn't go possibly the way that it could have gone. So they'll submit feedback and good. Another one, shout out to Patelco. That stuff gets reviewed. It's not just going down a void. With these get looked at by individuals like myself. And we take that and we say, what can we do for these individuals, for our members? And I remember specifically I was working with the member feedback that we were receiving one day, and it was an individual I came across, and the feedback was basically that he was very frustrated. He had, you have to excuse me again, I'm going all from memory here. He had applied for, I want to say, a vehicle loan, and maybe didn't work out for him. And I think then possibly a credit card. Again, you have to, excuse me, totally from memory here. But I came across it, and overall, what I seen was the tone was the individual was frustrated, right? And it seemed like he was trying to get into something. Some things weren't working out for him. So I called him, and we just started talking. And then what really came to mind is I'm sitting there, and I seen him was jumping ahead. I kind of needed to do this, I needed to do that. But then I was, we do have have you ever heard of a secured card product? Mm-hmm. Because we just started talking.
And most people don't know.
No. And I kind of had to take a step back for myself as well. Because at first it came into more like, how can I, just hear this individual out, see what we can do for them. But then it just kind of popped in, and of course was not. And this is one thing again about Patelco that I've always loved, is it's never been like nothing pops in my head to do it for a pressured type environment. It's like, what can we do to help? And that's what's been great. And so we get in this conversation, and he, again, never had heard of that secured card. What is that? And we start talking, and the next thing you know, he's like, and I'm like, so, we can get you, what is the goal? And he's like, well, I needed to get this car in X amount of months, and so we just start talking, and then the conversation completely turned around. The individual ended up coming in, got approved for the secured card, started building their credit, and then just totally went from there. And it was really a proud moment for myself, and being at Patelco, and even more so some of my leadership at the time heard the story, shared the story, and that story ended up getting celebrated on one of our organizational calls. And it was just great. It was just all the way around great, that I knew, that I felt good, as I always want to do, for our service, for our members, for our community, and it paid off. And the person was just totally turn their whole perspective around. And probably more so, if I could find the individual's name, I'd be so happy to see how well they're doing today.
Yeah, and they're probably shocked they got that call back, to your point.
Absolutely.
We talk all the time about the fact that when you are a member of a credit union, you're a member owner. So you actually have a stake in the credit union. And part of that is having a voice and getting feedback back from the credit union. So that's so cool that you're a part of that.
I actually loved doing that. Yeah, it was great. To share, I really quickly, and sorry, but I always had one where I was calling and this woman I was helping, and I just have to share this because it was hilarious and I loved it. But she's like, oh, and then I was calling on behalf of this branch, and she's like, do you enjoy doing that? I was like, I do. I really, really do. I'm not just doing it. And she goes, is there something wrong with you?
I sit by you and I hear you on the phone, and I'm always curious about who you're talking to and what you guys are talking about.
I enjoy it. Yeah, I enjoy every interaction, Yeah.
Well, and I'm sure that our members appreciate just having a soundboard, being able to talk through whatever their financial goals are, their frustrations, or whatever it happens to be.
Absolutely.
But again, that's the beauty of credit union membership. That's the beauty of the credit union spirit, would you say?
Yeah, definitely. Absolutely. Definitely.
Yeah. And very different than what you were used to?
Oh, 100,000% different. That's for sure.
What would you say about the difference in types of products that we have in comparison to, like, say, that of a check catcher?
Almost really, sorry, we're not really non-comparable. Again, speaking on our local, again on the educational side, thinking of that keeping that member fresh in mind, things like that. I mean, I have 2 family members now that I've personally been able to assist in that exact same fashion. That was like, hey, you want to build, okay, what's your goal? We want to build the credit. Okay, hey, we have these awesome products, a secured card, the Score Up loan, which I think again is just an amazing product. It's like quite literally, you're pretty much, building a savings goal or setting a goal for yourself. At the same time, the credit union is building on your credit score. I mean, what says more than that? Really, it's just it's amazing. And again, because we're mentioning that other industry, instant backup is another one that we have that I feel like really honestly, if there's anyone listening out there, I mean, that really fills the void.
Yeah. Can you talk a little bit more about instant backup and how that works?
Yeah, because I would love, because in all actuality, it was really kind of a light bulb moment for me. I had a conversation with one of our leadership, again, right when I joined, and we were talking about the other industry and such, and what we could do to help a lot of, because we have mutual members, and and that would be one of their customers in some instances. And really, instant backup, I think, is an amazing product that quite literally fills that void. Right? It's like sometimes, I totally get it. I've been there. So some people, find themselves with what do they call it? A little too much month at the end of the money.
Right.
Right. And it's like sometimes we just need that little bit to get you by. And that's why some of those companies exist. Right. It's you have your options, and sometimes, we have to go with what's available. And I think instant backup, we didn't, at the time of that conversation, we didn't yet have that product. But I absolutely love that we do now, because I think that was mostly part of our conversation. Like, it was a really just open conversation. I'm like, well, I wonder what we could do to help a lot of our community in this way. And I think we've solved that. I think that is the product. I mean, it's quite literally, same ballpark of dollar amount, nowhere near in terms of like a fee that you would pay. Like, again, light years away from that. And it quite literally fills the void for a lot of our members.
Score Up and Instant Backup are probably the coolest products that we have.
Yeah, they're awesome.
And best kept secrets, right? What would you say?
They really are. I think those good. Yeah, definitely best kept secrets. Again, it's all in just what's out there, the knowledge that's out there, and sure, there could be a huge, majority of our local communities that don't even know those products exist.
Yep. And we're talking credit builder products, folks, that you can take advantage of and find more information on our website. Joseph, what would you say about the difference with credit unions in the way of fees and interest rates, both for loans and for savings?
Again, I can keep it short here because it's funny. It's the same kind of conversation I have when I'm speaking to friends and family members. I'm like, you go back to, the proof is in the pudding, if you will. You know, it's there. I'm like, just compare. You know, I love that we get to take that approach. Same approach I used to take in branch was that, you know, we just have great quality conversations with our members, and this is what we have to offer. This is what we have to help. And if you found something better, hey, let's go for that. You're still our member. We just want you to get the best value and whatever's going to do that, you know, that's going to best attribute to your financial wellness and well-being.
Amazing. So we're talking about Score Up and Instant Backup that are really credit building products that help our members with financial wellness. We're talking easy access and no barriers to entry when we're talking free checking accounts and low cost savings accounts that earn great rates on interest, right? Yeah. We're talking products that have no fees like our checking account and our savings account. What else comes to mind that really stands out in comparison to other financial institutions?
I think, again, that, and sometimes I think this might, and I don't want to speak for others, but it might get understated too, that we have everything that's completely comparable. And if anything, a better value than most financial institutions. Of course, I'm going to sound a little biased, but I really mean it, you know, and it's, again, the same conversations I have with friends and family. It's always those fireside chats where it's like, guys, you don't have to take my word for it. You know? I think, honestly, when I first started working here, they told me, I think my brother got sick of hearing about our money market. Like, he really did.
It is such a good product.
Right? But he's just like, we get it, Joe. You know, it was like,
well, plus they get the benefit of coming to see somebody like you in the branch, maybe not in the branch anymore, but, you know, maybe they come across you and have a conversation with you on the phone. But we're here for that personalized service and to help you meet your financial goals too, right?
Absolutely. And funny thing, fast forward though, from those conversations, all of my brothers are members of Patelco now.
Man, you got them all in.
A little shameless plug here. Yeah, exactly. Because, again, I didn't have to, you know, do anything but show them, you know, hey, check it out for yourself.
Yeah.
And I love that approach because, again, if anyone comes in and they're not a member, I feel that it strongly does the same. You know, the value is there. The real core values of we're here for our members' financial health and well-being. It's there. I mean, it's just it's in just what we do here. And I don't think it needs to be sold whatsoever.
Yep.
I think the products and the people do it for us.
Well, thank you so much, Joseph, for sharing your stories, your perspective. You're our ambassador extraordinaire out there. If you have questions from today's show, want to find out more about these products that we're talking about, Score Up, Instant Backup, Secure Credit Card, free checking, savings account, you can find more information at patelco.org. Joseph, thank you again for joining us for this special International Credit Union Month episode.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me.
That concludes today's episode of Small Talks for Big Change, where we help simplify financial topics to help with your financial wellness. We'll see you next time. Patelco Credit Union is insured by NCUA. Thanks for tuning in, guys. To hear more, subscribe or follow our next video. See you next time.